Hello, hello. All right, getting started, guys. Let's get right into it. Good morning. Welcome to the Hurley Investments Trade Findings and Adjustments of September 14th. I missed you last week as Kevin took over. I'll get into that a little bit as it's somewhat pertinent. This is, we have here we talked about on the August 31st. On the August 31st. I don't know why I said it that way. Talked about looking for maybe a covered call positions. That might have been good for some stocks, but we're at the same time kind of starting to head up a little bit. But otherwise kind of bouncing around, going up and down and above the 50-day. Might have been decent time to add some covered calls for a couple things. We didn't end up doing that. Reason being is this market and these stocks are just, they just kind of don't know where to go and what to do, and um, nobody knows, where we're headed. Speaking of the market, um, so you can just see it's a little bit choppy, especially since the end of the summer here, just kind of sporadic. It looks like people want the market to go up, they want to put money in, but at the same time, there's just some uncertainty with our rate hikes still. We've got inflation coming in that's still not favorable. We've got we did have a pullback that there was some buying into, as you can see, but we're coming up into we're in September now, but of course September and October, which are typically really crappy months for the stock market, and so it looks like there's some hesitation going into this time period, and definitely some uncertainty. So we hadn't added covered call positions. We did add put positions and held some put positions that we had on before. I'll go over that in a second. Talked about Apple maybe being a good option for a covered call. I have Apple up here, I think. Yep. 31st would have been great. Retrospect is 2020. Meta, not necessarily was, we saw it struggling to get over the 50-day, and now we've popped back above it. So that one might be making us a little nervous right now if we had added covered calls there. Baidu might have been good. 31st was here. Could have added 150s. Then it would have bounced up and touched that, and would have been a little scary. We could have looked at 155s even. Realistically, we wouldn't have been adding on the 31st anyways, just talking about it. But 150s could have been good. But reality is we're still in that time frame where there's just still some uncertainty. And again, it's just a little choppy, and the market doesn't really know what it wants to do. It's just indecisive. So I'm going to keep up this covered call idea because we're still kind of looking through it. And then we've got something coming up next week. Any idea what's coming up? Any guesses? Thanks, David. Yes, that is correct. Rate hike announcement. What should we expect? Well, I definitely think they are going to raise rates once again, but um, definitely will raise rates. I'll just say yes, but market might go up if they say they're done hiking rates. Reality is, though, unlikely to stop raising rates here. More likely to come. So just a little if and then, give you an idea of things we'll be looking at and expecting them to be asked and talked about. Reality is they're probably not done. After this one, they probably got a couple more, and even within this year. So but even then, if they say, I think we could be adding 1, 2, or 3 more this year, but we look to be stopping our rate hikes at that point for some time to assess or something like that. And that could be even something as dumb as that could be a happy moment for the market, seeing an end in sight. Questions? So, as I'd mentioned, I was out of town last week. Kevin was watching things. I was on an important investigative mission to see the status of one of the portfolio businesses of one of our stocks. What did Kevin do? Okay. We were able to book some very nice profits on several stocks, on puts on several of our shares. Apple, we had 185s on. Put on just in time for this nice drop. Booked a profit on those after a couple days this week. Not the end. Let's see. No, it would have been 11th or 12th. Going to 20s, so right as we started to break that 50-day once again, boom, got those on and took those off pretty much right at 208, where it's sitting right now, holding, or at least trying to hold, the 200-day. Boeing, of course, having a little trouble fulfilling orders with parts they need to fix. Same old story. Not quite as bad as that stock chart would make it look, though. Baidu, we had, let's see, I think they were 140s. They were either 140s or 145s, I can't remember. If I could type correctly, that would be cool. 140s, I'll say, to be on the safe side. What else? Disney. We had on 88s from way back here, and it's just been falling. Guess where we took those 88 strike puts off? Yes, right here when it bottomed out at 80. We couldn't have placed those better. I'll come back to Disney. We had metas. They were 305s from back here, falling below the 50-day, came back up. Couldn't justify taking them off through here because couldn't get back above the 50-day. Had a pop this day and we took them off for fairly close to break even, maybe lost a little bit, but at least we had a little protection through that period. And I won't list those because we didn't book a profit, but man, Apple, Boeing, Baidu, Disney, some excellent put profits. I don't know how they spell excelente, but that's how I will spell it. So I mentioned I went on a investigative trip. That was to not trop, but trip to Disneyland to see how Disney, I'll say, see how bad Disney parks are performing. Because that's what we've been told. They can hardly even get anybody in these parks. Their parks are pretty much empty, struggling to fill their parks. You saw all of the titles, all of the headlines from a few weeks ago from the summer. Man, they're just struggling. Oh my goodness gracious. I can happily report that not only was that not the case, it was ridiculous. So many damn people. Lines were ridiculous. And I'll say I'll happily report and begrudgingly that Disneyland was obnoxiously busy. What did I do wrong here? There we go. And lines were ridiculous. Took the family out for the little Halloween party, the Oogie Boogie Bash on the 5th. Went all the way to that Saturday, the 9th. Had a good time. Kids loved it, of course. I loved watching the kids. Can't say I loved standing in lines, weaving around hordes of zombie Disneyland goers. But it was good. Had a good time. So again, can report all of those headlines were complete bullcrap. At least they are right now, months after. All right. Last thought. My trade idea is just, I know you're going to love this one. Get this. SPY bear puts. First spread for portfolio protection for upcoming rate hike and crappy market season. Of course, it kicked me out. Let me see if I can pause this. Get back in here. Bear with me. Okay. So what I would be looking at is about a month. Looking at October 15th, 14th, I mean, 13th, it looks like. Something like 149, since that's where we're at. You could go to 150 if it, if it heads up there. But 149 is pretty much there, and it gets you a little cheaper. And then I'd be looking at something like, I think I said 149, at 449, and something like on the short side, 440. So you'd be asking at 519, 560, depending on which strike you went with, and selling or bidding to open 440s at 259 or 441s at 279. So one of those two options of put spreads gives you about $10 of protection at the cost of about what, 275, 250, somewhere along there. Oops. 449. Five, what was it? 519. Or guess that gives us $9. I think I said 10. Sorry about that. I mean, you could look at doing a full 10 and just going down to 239. I kind of want a little more credit for 440s at 256. Subtract that 256 from the 519, and that gives you your net debit. And gives you a bit of protection for your portfolio through this upcoming week. You could even be looking at booking a profit on that pretty quick and just taking that as it is. Unless we get to that rate hike and it just looks pretty bad and I just don't see any end in sight and yada, yada, yada. And you just wait and see what they say and how the market reacts. But that could be a decent one. Glad we booked those profits on those puts. Yes, we are going to be looking at adding some back on. Yes, we're going to be looking at possibly still adding some covered calls. Thoughts or questions? That does it for me. But of course, any thoughts and questions or what are welcome. All right, guys. Looks like that's it. Thanks for coming. Enjoyed this morning. Keep an eye on this one. And happy investing and happy trading to you. Have a good rest of the week and a good weekend. Take care.